see that you're in jail clothes. Are you currently in custody?
Yes, ma'am.
What are you in custody for?
The murder?
Are you doing a sentence for murder?
Yes, ma'am.
You were convicted of murder?
Yes, ma'am.
And is that the murder of Dan Markel?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have a trial in your case?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you testify?
Yes, ma'am.
You testified on your own behalf?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And when you testified, were you truthful with the jury?
No, ma'am. I was not.
Did you take the same oath that you just took today in your own trial?
Yes, ma'am.
What was your defense when you were tried?
That I had nothing to do with it.
All right. That we got it right in reference to Charlie Adelson and we got it right in reference to the killers,
Yes,
but you
ma'am.
weren't in the middle.
Yes, ma'am.
Was that true?
No, ma'am. It was not.
Were you in the middle?
Yes, ma'am. I was.
So the next process is going to be appeal.
Appeal, right. So that's why I asked the court to appoint the public defender's office for purposes of appeal, because she's indigent for costs. So I'm going to reach out to Jessica Yeri, who is a public defender here. She's fantastic, and we will work as closely with them as possible on the appeal, because no one knows this case better than us. So, but I have to say that it's been a pleasure with everybody, because I feel like you're all family now. It's been 6 years, so yeah, I appreciate everybody being so great with us.
You're saying that she does plan to appeal?
Well, our hope of what the result of an appeal will be, because the harder than getting acquittal is overturning a jury verdict. But of course, that's really her last and only option at this point. So
The other option is saying more, right?
that is potentially an option. And so,
Is cooperating still?
pardon me?
The other option is cooperating still?
That's up to the state, because the ball's in their court.
Did she try? Did she try to talk to the state and?
Since the verdict?
Since the verdict.
She has not been in a very good state of mind
Yeah.
since, even during and after the trial. So I'm hoping now that since this is over, we can.
You said in your statement that she really hopes that everyone involved will.
Yes.
So could part of that be, even if the court doesn't want to hear it, couldn't she still tell the world what she knows?
Well, I don't think the court is the audience at this point. It would be the prosecution.
Right. But if they reject.
And remember too, she is not the only one that has information. There's one person still who has never spoken that probably has the most compelling information out of everybody else. So the hope is maybe
Maybe they should have a three-way call with each other about it.
Thank you, right?
Well, they have been.
No, they haven't. Well, no, they only had that one three-way call in the 6 years that the state obtained, and it just happened by happenstance that she called his mom, and he called his mom at the same time. And you guys have that was all in discovery. That was during the trial. That's the only time they've ever spoken to each other directly. Were the days leading up to the trial on that recording. All the other people that you hear on that recording, there's only one call with Katie, but that's through a three-way.
There are other three-party calls, though, according to her record.
According to whose record?
That's her jail record. She was cited for third-party phone calls back in
On her recorded phone calls for third-party calls, and I will tell you it was just me and her on the phone call. So it's weird. I know that there's a voice recognition system on the phone, so if they hear up a third party, but remember, the prosecution can pull all thousands of her jail phone calls, and they've been monitoring them.
Can you tell us why Katie was crying before the verdict was read?
I don't know.
Was she having a bad feeling about it before the verdict,
The moment the door opened and the jurors walked in, we knew.
I see.
Because not one of them would make eye contact with us. And based on my experience, and I get it, those jurors, they poured their heart and soul into this case. I can tell you that from sitting there every single day and watching how intently each and every one of them paid attention. So regardless of the verdict, I have to say, on a case as intense as this, because I've never seen a case with such a fact pattern like this before, and I have tried almost over 50 jury trials, and there will never be a case that compares to this one. And those jurors, when I say they sat there every single day and took notes and paid attention. So regardless of the verdict, I want to give the jurors, a thank you for just paying attention and, listening. It's a very, very, very difficult, as you all know, because you've all been living, all these faces here, I've been seeing you guys for 6 years. So we all know, though, that this is not the end of it. as you all know from our opening statement, what our true belief is, that this is not, that justice hasn't anywhere near been completely served. So, and I meant that when I said that today in the sentencing, I meant it. So, in the hopes that things can be done, just to make sure, because my heart breaks for the Markel family every single day. And when I found out today that Wendy Adelson is still not allowing, after she said in court, in Katie's trial, you know, I'm trying to get them back together, and as soon as she left the stand, everything ceased.
So Tara, if Katie and the state can talk, do you think that there will be more Adelsons charged?
I don't know. I really don't know. So, I mean, I wasn't kidding when, you know, like, I really don't know. So I can't say. I have no information about anybody else.
Mike, Chris?
I don't know. And the reason, just in case everyone's wondering today why Chris is not here, we were trying to get this actually rescheduled for the next few weeks because he had a federal sentencing yesterday. So it went all afternoon, and we couldn't get any tickets up here from Miami last minute because I understand that FSU is having graduation. So one ticket was $2,000. So I drove up here last night to, yeah. But that's the only reason why Chris wasn't here. If you saw, he logged in and was able to appear that way. But we will do everything that we can. We're still, I know a lot of people have all these preconceived notions and all these assumptions about who is paying our legal fees and all of that. You can all ask the state attorney. They know where every penny came from and that it had nothing to do with the Adelsons. You know, I don't know how much clearer we can make that. I know that perception is still going on.
What is the amount, approximately?
If you pull up her, you can look, she has to put how much in her motion to be declared indigent for cost, and you can see how much we charged our retainer for the second trial. I can let you know, I mean, we said it very early on, it was her family. Remember, her mother passed away 6 months after her arrest.
Right.
Her mother worked for decades as a nurse. One thing that people do forget when it comes to Katie, she does get lost in the shuffle all the time. And I understand, because the primary people are the ones who put things into motion. But when she does get lost in the shuffle, people do forget, you know, that she hasn't seen her kids in 6 years, and she did lose her mother, and she does have a family. People think that she is, because she has kids with Sigfredo Garcia, that just means that she is, you know, you lie down with dogs, you wake up with fleas. And I just hope that sometimes people will take a chance to really see the person that she is, because I've come to know her. And I truly, truly, truly mean it when I say that I do wish that justice really, and then all answers to this puzzle will eventually be answered and come to light. And there's still people who haven't said a word. So
People multiple?
well, I only know of one person who hasn't said a word, who, just on my involvement in the case, I know, I mean, never heard from someone who we all know has direct knowledge.
In your
So-
conversations with him leading up to trial, when you were prepping him to be a witness, what happened there? Was he reluctant? Did he?
It wasn't really, and it's so funny because everyone said, oh, you know, you were prepping him. It was more of me trying to get him to testify.
Do you know what he was gonna say?
No,
You don't know?
no. Not directly.
Did he say something like, "Don't bring me up to Tallahassee" or something? Like he didn't want to be.
It was more, I can tell you all this, and you're all the media, and from the things that aren't on the surface, and if you look into things that you can't see and are going on, for example, in the prisons, and the fact that this case was on the media, it was being played in the prisons. So we all know that how things work in prison rules. If you cooperate in any way, shape, or form with the government, what happens to you in prison? So that is, I mean, if you get the transcripts of Luis Rivera's latest depo, the one that we took the Friday before, we had asked him about that. And if you get those transcripts, you will see he explains like how things work in prison. If you keep your mouth shut, you're revered as, you know, a god in prison. But if you talk, it's a death sentence. So, but I was trying my best and within my powers. I mean, as the case was coming up, remember also too, we had another witness who had said previously and gave a sworn testimony. You all know him. He's God, what was his name again? He just took his life sentence on the But he was a witness against Luis Rivera because Luis Rivera had said to him in jail that he lied, and we listed him as a witness. Rayborn, thank you. And then as the case was coming to trial, believe it or not, started calling our office and saying, I will not. I've got my life sentence. I don't care what happens. I'm not getting up on that witness stand.
Yeah, that's Walter Cole Rayburn.
Right, and then so, like even too with Sigfredo, there's only so much that we can do, and I'm not his attorney, so I can't ask him. I would love to ask him, but if I asked him anything, I would become a witness. I didn't want to risk myself being ejected from the case, so I'm just hoping now that the posture of the things have changed. I don't know if things have changed on his side. I'm saying now that things have closed up for Katie, so I don't know. There's always, I don't know. I can't even begin to tell you how I've always thought the case was going to go one way. This case has had so many curveballs that I still can't wrap my head around.
Do you know if those tapes will be released
Of
of Garcia speaking with Magbanua right before trial?
those weren't sealed.
Oh, so they're out already.
Those the only ones I requested to be sealed were mine with Sigfredo, because it's considered he's my witness. So
Would you release those now that it's over?
I don't want to do anything to jeopardize the upcoming prosecution of Mr. Charlie. If it is something that will help the state, no problem. But I will leave it in their hands. So, but if there is anything, I'm not going to do anything to jeopardize the prosecution of Charles Adelson. Because regardless of the question marks that loom around other members of that family who may know or not know or what they do know, you can all tell from our last trial, we are in 100% agreement that Mr. Adelson needs to be brought to justice.
What was it like seeing him in courtroom for the first time?
This is the first time I've ever been in a room with him. And so many things I'd love to say and ask. And I'm sure, just so many things of all the lives that he has destroyed. Not only the Markels, his family, his nephews, his son that he had while he was out, and then I will not even begin with Katie and all the people who had no direct affiliation with the players in this case. And it's one thing everyone can agree on is all the children. Dan Markel's boys I hope they get to an age, and they will get there. And the one thing that family will not be able to stop them is access to the internet. And the Markel family has been so great in keeping the memory of Dan Markel alive and in the media. And I hope that one day those boys will take it upon themselves to do the research and find out from the rest of the world who their father really was, and then take the necessary steps to reach out to their grandparents. Because they're so young now, they're still within the shield of their parent. But it is a shame, because I can tell you one thing, the composure that the Markel family has had throughout this entire ordeal, having to sit in that courtroom through 2 trials, and just sit there and listen, and their composure is just fantastic. I don't think I could have done that. And their anguish, I meant what I said in there, continues to this day, because now it's like they started all over again and have to go through the process all over again. And I meant it when I said that Katie's heart breaks for them. It does. I mean, every single day she asks, I can't imagine. And she sees them in court. You can tell on their faces. They're not, as the years go on, it breaks my heart. And even with us as the lawyers, there were times when they'd open the doors for us. They're just so gracious and respectful of the judicial process. So I would also say thank you to them, because emotions can run really high, especially in a situation like this. And I have never seen such composure in such an inflamed case by a victim's family before. That was pretty amazing.
How do you think that her testimony went at this last trial?
Whose?
Katie's.
The thing that happened with this trial, I feel like I was even getting the sense leading up to it, and even in trial, I don't want to put the blame on like on COVID but you guys could all see she was much sharper in her testimony in the first trial. And she had COVID twice. I felt like she had just had you know, she wasn't the same as she had been in the first trial. And she's, herself too is worn down. And there are things now that she can't even, you know, her memory. It was 8 years ago that this happened. So, you know, I could tell on the witness stand that it wasn't the same and she was struggling. And it was just, and I can tell you, it's the stress and just waking, you guys don't understand, they wake her up every morning to come in here, hardly get any sleep from the stress. And regular people won't understand that, especially jurors who are only being introduced to her for the first time. So it is what it is, you know.
Was the plan all along for you to do the closing instead of Christopher DeCoste at the second trial, or did that change mid-trial?
I mean, we kind of just switched up things just to kind of change things around and just not make it as monotonous as, but there was really no, you know, for example, he took Lewis. I did Lewis last time. He took Wendy. So we just decided to switch up a few things. So it wasn't really, yeah, we decided before, but that's what we just do for organizational skills in terms of a case like this, where you have to part and parcel, because one person trying to try this case and get all those witness cross-examinations ready, especially with the experts and the cell towers, and I can't even. So yeah, it was tough. So, but it's almost like just we've tried the case already. So it's very weird till this is, I think, my first retrial after a mistrial. So, but everything's already kind of played out. So we did take the different strategy of trying to now just lay out what we believe happened from what the evidence that we had. And one thing everyone's consistent with, there's no question. When it comes to the defense, we do 100% believe that Charlie Adelson was behind all of this.
Well,
So-
what about when?
See, I don't want to commit, but I would say, you know, I'm a person who knows about the standard of proof, and I'd have to say, and I don't want to get, you know, look at my cross-examination of Jeffrey Lacoste, and that will let you know how I stand on that position. Okay, and I think you know what I mean. That actually changed for me from the first to the second trial as I was looking over things again. But that's why my cross was that way. And my position on her is a little different. She's a member of the Florida Bar, so she's an attorney. So let me just leave it at that before I get myself in any trouble. So
As a member of the,
we have a different ethical standard
so
in
did she
terms
need
of,
that in her testimony?
just from what my understanding is that I found out from the victim impact, which I don't have access to the Markels, okay? From one of the victim impact statements I've discovered, because I read them all late last night, that you recall she testified in the trial, you know, when we crossed her, you know, you haven't let the Markels have any communication with their kids. That she goes, oh no, I just invited them. Remember she said that? I just invited them to the bar mitzvah and, you know, we're working things out. I'm paraphrasing. But come to find out that after the trial, all of that was stopped. She actually had the bar mitzvah and didn't invite them. So that to me tells me that you only did that to be able to testify to that in preparation, as you knew what cross and the questions were coming.
But just to be factual, she uninvited them once Charlie was arrested.
But what
So
is
it
it?
was before the trial.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
when you think about that, the arrest of Charlie had to do was based entirely on that video. So
Right.
it's not as if that
I agree.
anything changed in terms of what you feel that they were suspecting that he had anything to do with that. All of that was the same. So if she tries to come up with an excuse, oh, it was the arrest, who cares?
Right.
You know what I mean? They didn't say, oh, hey, by the way, I know you haven't arrested Charlie Adelson for 5 years, but do it now. That had nothing to do with the Markels. And I'm telling you, the Markels, to take that position that I will put whatever aside so that I can have a relationship with my grandchildren, that shows you the type of character that they have.
Right.
And that she is still not allowing them to have any relationship with their paternal grandparents and their cousins. I just found out too, I didn't know that Shelly Markel had kids. So that's where our position comes in, that I hope that one day and somehow that all questions are answered. and it will never bring closure, but that it brings the justice that will at least bring some sort of semblance of peace to the Markels.
How are Katie's kids doing and who are they with?
Well, I can't tell you who they're with. They're with family.
With family.
Okay, and I only say that because you run the name, and that's. I can tell you all this now. It was Katie's instruction. Do not bring my family into this media storm because I don't want the ripple effect of. I mean, one of our brother's businesses was sort of affected in the very beginning because of the association. So whereby it would have, I got things on Instagram, no family is there for her, and it literally was Katie saying they do not come into this courtroom because of the cameras. And I mean, that's why my heart breaks for the children that are all affected by this, because they had nothing to do with anything or anybody, and they are the ones that are suffering.
Does she talk to them?
Does she talk to who?
To her children?
She does occasionally. It's getting a little difficult now because they're getting older and in an area where they can understand, what prison is and what jail is. And because when she was arrested, I mean, her son, I think, was 9 and her daughter was barely 4 or 5, and she'd been in now for 6 years. So, and I'm hoping if they ever look up anything on the internet, that they know that their mother loves them to death, and she's always just had nothing but love for her kids. And this is the only way. It's sad that I have to use this and the internet as a way to get messages out there, but it is what it is with this case. And, it's almost like one door closes now and another door just today, same day, first case management. It was very weird though seeing him in person for the first time, even for me, because I feel like I've lived this case for 6 years, and it's almost like he became a real person. I've heard the voices from the wiretaps, and that voice haunts me in my sleep. So, I'll probably see you guys when the trial comes up, because I'll probably come back and I can't not watch. I mean, this is 6 years. So, and I'm just hoping that, I can't say it enough, that there comes some kind of finality and that all questions about this case are answered. That's what I'm praying. So, but we'll see. We'll see. I wish I could give you guys more answers, but most of them are I don't know. So, and we've been as forthcoming with everything as it relates to this case, but I cannot trust you enough, because I know you are of that absolute belief that we are paid for by the Adelsons. Absolutely not. If you look at Mr. DeCoste and I, the majority of our practice is public defender work. So it's not about the money for us. We're in the red as it relates to this case already, but it was just, I can't even begin. This case will always, it's gonna be a part of me forever. And I'm not, even though you heard, with the public defense office, Katie will do whatever we can to assist, but we're not leaving her. We're still on this, and wait until there is a day where there is some really sort of absolute finality, if that can even be achieved. But hopefully at least some questions, if they can be answered, will be answered. Because I have no idea what he's gonna say. So, we'll see.
His attorney says that they have truth on their side.
No comment. No comment. Would that be coming from his sister?
I'm sorry?
And would the truth be coming from his sister?
Oh.
But you see, I'll start with my
Yeah.
little snippy
Yeah.
comments, and I don't want to do that, so yeah.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're very welcome. I didn't intend on giving a comment, I'm sorry, but yeah, I'm lucky I didn't break down into tears. It was a very emotional thing for us with the verdict the last time, so, and it's just because this has just been part of our lives, as with all of you, because I recognize all your faces.
Yeah, I'll put it on the record. I mean, I've always said that you've done an excellent
You
job.
have, and I appreciate that.
And I don't say, I never had the opinion that you were paid by the Adelsons. I do raise the question.
Yeah.
And I said it's a fair question to ask.
No, and I only get so frustrated with that because no matter how many times we say that we haven't, and that they actually have a copy of all of the receipts and everything,
Sure.
that people still, to this day, if you,
But the question is always gonna be there because somebody can do it indirectly.
but you know what,
They
there are
can
things
help
I
the
could say all
family.
day long
Of
about this
course.
case, and no matter what I say, people won't believe me.
No
The people who follow this case, I'm telling you, this is the first time I've been exposed to such hatred online, that you'd be surprised the emails that I get. and the things that people say to me, and I know it's coming from a place of emotion. The last jury was able to see that Luis Rivera was a liar and that everything that his testimony could not be trusted. I don't want this jury not to be able to see. I don't know how much of that came from them looking at him and being able to, just how he reacted to us. But I know that everyone on that last jury, one thing they could agree on was that Luis Rivera was not telling the truth. And the entire case against Katie rests on his word.
Let me give you a real world example. And this goes to our concern about jurors, witnesses wearing masks in trial. You sit down at a poker table, you'll see a lot of poker players wearing glasses. And the reason why they're wearing, not glasses, sunglasses, and the reason why they're wearing sunglasses is that you can tell a lot by somebody's eyes, the direction that they look, whether they blink. The same thing applies to the southern half of your face, whether you're smiling, whether you're pursing your lips. These are important things to be able to, me as an attorney, cross-examining a witness, I know when I'm hitting a pressure point based on the facial expressions, and there are thousands of micro expressions of the face. So by covering up half the face is a concern, and then there's the other issue that we raised in court, which is it's a lot easier for a jury potentially to make a decision on somebody that's faceless.
I know why. It's obvious to me why the state from day one has been trying to rush into this trial and then at the same time not playing fairly when it comes to Ms. Magbanua. Because they say that they're ready for trial, but still are dumping mountains of evidence on us so that our attention can be distracted from preparing for trial. So it's offensive to us that they come in here and we want to get this done and over with, because Katherine Magbanua's life has been on the line for 5 years. Even though they have offered her, since the day she was arrested, immunity in exchange for giving up Charlie Adelson, but that would require her to lie and say that she was involved. She has been incarcerated for 5 years, maintaining her innocence. So this trial isn't, oh, let's just rush and get to it and get it over with. This is the difference between whether she gets to see her kids to touch them again, or whether she's going to spend the rest of her life in jail for a crime that she did not commit.
Well, thank you all so much. I appreciate it.
I'll
It's so
keep
nice
going.
to meet you.
Yeah, you too.
I know. I'm not sure if I'll be the one here, but we'll see. They're still kind of picking out the team, so.
Okay.
I have more for you there.
Oh, I'm sure she could tell us that I'm not shutting
pissed.
down right now.
I'm sure you guys are going to answer questions from me. right?
Sure, if you have any.
Mentour Lawyer?
Yeah.
Mentour Lawyer.
I'm
yeah.
pissed.
I enjoyed your
You want-
juror
Interview,
interview
thank
very
you.
much.
Thank
You want to know
you.
why I'm pissed? I'll tell you why.
You're pissed at me?
No, not at you.
Oh.
In this whole process.
Okay, tell me why.
Hold on, give them.
Thank you, guys.
so much.
I'm waiting for your answer.
I'm pissed, and I'll tell you the reason why that we're still doing this. There's evidence in this case, objectively viewed evidence that Katherine Magbanua was not involved. But this government, look, they began their process trying to put the screws to her by charging her in a crime that she was not involved in, so that they could hopefully get her to cooperate against people that are their true target. When they realized that that wasn't going to happen, the next thing that they did was to go forward in the prosecution, completely turning a blind eye to the evidence that shows that she was not involved. And during that time, Katherine, she hasn't been around for her kids to grow up. She wasn't at her mother's funeral to bury her mother who died of cancer, and now she's sitting in custody fighting for her life. At the end of the day, she too is a victim in this, and the state attorney's office is just as criminal as the people that were involved in it, because they're doing it to an innocent person. That's why I'm pissed.
Well, definitely everybody deserves a fair trial. Now, Sam Sanganet gave an interview in which he said,
Who did?
Sam Sanganet.
Zanganet, yes.
Zanganet.
Right.
He gave an interview in which he said that if his client actually testified, it would not be favorable
No.
to Katie.
His
So can you
words
tell me-
were, he didn't want to do anything that would hurt Katie, and that was taken out of context.
Well,
Sigfredo Garcia didn't want to take the stand because probably, we don't know, but we all saw the evidence against him. But it's not because he had testimony that was bad saying that Katie was guilty. Is he just thought that if I get up there, my testimony is going to reflect badly on her because we're being tried as a pair. So if they don't like me, it bleeds over to her. I know that for an actual fact.
Now,
that He has,
Right.
I know for a fact that there is no testimony that he gives that inculpates.
I mean, what do I think the biggest lie was? That she wasn't involved, or that she didn't know.
Well, that's the thing. We're trying to figure out exactly who in the Adelson family might have known something. Clear that the conversation was a lot about Charlie, but talking about testimony, I want to go back to your client's is there any idea, any preview you can give us of what his role, Secretary Garcia's role, going to be in the upcoming Katherine Magbanua trial? Will he testify in any way?
At this point, Sigfredo's case is under appeal. I'm not an appellate lawyer, so he has new counsel for his appeal. I don't think the government's going to call him as a witness. They've offered him deal after deal after deal, and he rejected all these deals at the inception because it was going to hurt his wife, Ms. Magbanua. So the chances of him doing a complete 180, in essence, to help himself when he's kind of thrown himself on a grenade in this case for Ms. Magbanua, I don't think that he's going to testify on behalf of the government. And I don't think he's a good witness for Ms. Magbanua. And I don't think he's a good witness for Ms. Magbanua. And I don't think he's a good witness for Ms. Magbanua. So I don't see him having any kind of role other than the government presenting the evidence that they have from a prosecutorial standpoint.
No, you don't dispute that Sigfredo Garcia and Luis Rivera were involved and they killed Dan Markel,
No.
correct?
In my opinion, the evidence is beyond a reasonable doubt that the two of them were up there for that trip and one of them shot Dan Markel. I don't know which one,
Right.
but my gut is telling me that it's Luis
But
because
an important thing to note there is that we're not getting the full story. Luis
Yeah.
Rivera is not given the full story. Luis Rivera has testified and messed up and given the truth and said, well, the third trip, oh, that was with King Anthony. So he's giving the story that the government wants from him, not the full truth. We don't have the full story, but in my opinion, do I trust that Luis Rivera and Sigfredo Garcia were some of the members involved? Yes. What we know beyond a shadow of a doubt is that Katherine Magbanua was not involved in that. That evidence is there. The government wants the jury to not look at it, wants the media to not look at it. They don't even want to look at it themselves because it goes against their theory.
So why tell the truth now?
I believe that the truth needed to come out now so that the family can get some type of closure.
Why didn't the truth need to come out last year or the year before or the year before that?
I was trying to defend myself.
You were trying to get off.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you think you'd be successful in your trial with that defense?
I thought so.
Has anyone promised you anything for your testimony here today?
No, ma'am.
Weren't you originally offered immunity for cooperation in this case?
Yes, ma'am, I was.
But you didn't take us up on that
No, ma'am, I didn't.
because you thought you could get off completely.
Yes,
Right.
ma'am.
And now you're doing a life sentence.
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Did Charlie Adelson threaten to harm you if you told the truth?
No, ma'am, he didn't threaten me.
Did anybody threaten you to keep your silence?
No, ma'am.
In the first trial, your client even said that she was surprised with the evidence and that she felt that Charlie lied to her and that he was involved.
Of course.
That the Adelsons are involved.
yes,
So your theory, I know you don't have to prove the case.
right.
But your defense theory is that there was a direct connection between Sigfredo Garcia and Charlie?
This is what the theory is because I wish
It's not a theory, it's a fact from the evidence.
Right.
You know what Katie has actually said to us before? I wish I had the information that they wanted so that I could go home to my kids. I wish that I could say, Charlie got me because I'd be home with my kids right now. She goes, I wish I had that information. What we believe, and the evidence actually supports this, is that the only reason why Charlie Adelson and Sigfredo Garcia know each other is because of Katherine Magbanua.
Right.
Okay, they know of each other because of her. Like for example, I only know the prosecutors in this case because of Katherine Magbanua.
Sure.
All right, but everything that Sigfredo did doesn't mean that it was with the knowledge of Katie, which is what is required in order to prove that she's guilty. So what we think happened is that Sigfredo was kind of like, oh look, Katie's getting on with her life, and in some capacity approached or had a conversation with Charlie Adelson.
Let's look at this realistically. The belief is that Sigfredo Garcia walked into a garage and shot Professor Dan Markel in the head.
Right.
It's also clear that he loved Katherine Magbanua more than anything. Isn't it also a correct assumption that that is the same man that would confront the man that's in between him and the woman that he loves? What we know from Luis Rivera and from the other evidence is that Luis Rivera and Sigfredo Garcia were tracking Katie and Charles. We know that Sigfredo Garcia contacted Charles Adelson. There's text messages that came out in the trial. Did Sigfredo contact you? We also know that just 2 weeks prior to the murder, Sigfredo Garcia, in the middle of the road, confronted Katherine Magbanua and Charles Adelson. Now, this is either a situation that these two guys that are fighting over the same girl were involved in a conspiracy together where they're fighting over the same girl, or these two guys came to an agreement. And that agreement was, I will break up with this girl, I will pay you, you commit this murder for me, you get back the woman that you love. And interestingly enough, what happens right after the murder? Charles Adelson breaks up with Katherine Magbanua.
Just to let you know, we have Charlie Adelson's iCloud, okay? It was provided to us from the state that they fought tooth and nail to not present that evidence to the jury, because in those are all of the text messages between Katie and Charlie Adelson. We have all of their text messages between each other on the day of the homicide, where he is at work all day and she's like, hey, what are you doing later? This doesn't sound like a conversation between people who are conspiring. So it's amazing to us that they have all this, but they're trying to keep it from the jury. So we actually have all that evidence there that they actually know about each other. Who's to say also that Sigfredo just introduced Charlie to Luis? Luis is taking everybody for a ride. Everyone. And I'm telling you right now, he knows the answer to what really happened lies with Luis Rivera. And he got the deal of a century to come into court. He doesn't care about Katie, obviously. He's a man that takes lives. So he has no problem testifying against her because he's just taking her freedom. That's why he can't understand why she can't take the plea, but it's because she is not a piece of like he is.
Along that same note, Luis Rivera has no problem testifying against Katie because that's who he is. He's somebody who advances himself by taking from others. If Katherine Magbanua helped take the life of Professor Markel, then what would be stopping her from taking the life of Charles Adelson? You can't be of high morals in one situation and low morals of the other. You would, in a second, for your own benefit, look, if she did this, helped commit the murder for money, then there would be nothing stopping her to do this to be able to get home. Can't be of high morals and low morals at the same time. She's sitting in custody waiting for that trial because the only thing she has left at this point that this government hasn't ripped away from her is her innocence.
But one question. If the story is that Sigfredo Garcia was involved somehow, introduced the Adelsons to Luis, somehow Sigfredo was involved. And obviously, your theory involves the fact that he was deeply in love with Katie. Why isn't he doing something to let her get out of jail?
Hold on. Remember, his case is still up on appeal.
Correct.
Okay? So
a very weak appeal.
I don't know, because since his appellate lawyer, was also the lawyer for one of the snitches,
I do know.
Amy Manco. So I don't understand how he is representing Sigfredo Garcia, and he also represented someone that agreed to snitch.
That I did not know.
Yes, that's a conflict for anyone who wants to know, because that just does not seem right.
Let's take that question head on. You're asking why isn't Sigfredo Garcia coming forward? Okay, now this gets into Luis Rivera. Right now, Luis Rivera is sending letters to the state attorney's office begging for help because his life is at risk. Now, this is a high-ranking Latin king. He gets different privileges than somebody like Sigfredo Garcia, who is not a Latin king. Sigfredo Garcia, I imagine, knows that if you are to testify and tell what the truth is, that King Anthony, Hebrew was involved,
all these other kings,
and you are serving life already, that you are going to have a very tough existence, but that it potentially could go beyond just his own life to the life of his children. So these are the type pressures that are involved. But those same pressures right now are applying to Luis Rivera. Luis Rivera has made it known through these letters, I am in harm's way right now. That is influencing every word he has to say. Because if the truth is that what he alluded to, that King Anthony is involved and that others are involved, that opens up a can of worms that is a very dangerous can of worms for him and for his family. So these are some of the reasons why he potentially is not coming forward, but also you have the fact that the case is still open on appeal, fighting a life sentence and wanting to deal with it.
What makes more sense? that they're scared of a dentist and his family, or that they're scared of the Latin kings? What makes more
A
sense?
dentist and his family that ordered a kill.
Oh, no, hold on. Let's be real, okay? Because we are from Miami.
Yeah.
If for anyone to say to me that they think that Katherine Magbanua is scared of Charlie Adelson and his dental family practice is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Because if she wasn't scared to take the stand and testify against Luis Rivera, a Latin king, she went and took the stand and said, I think he did it. So that goes against her trying to protect him. It makes no sense to me when people say, oh, they're scared of the Adelson family. They're not the mafia. The one people that she would be scared of or should be scared of are the Latin kings. Why do you think Luis Rivera, every time Sam Zangane kept asking him about the Latin kings? No, why are you bringing that up? Why do you keep talking about that?
Nothing to do with the Latin
Dude, stop talking about the Latin kings. Stop talking about the Latin kings.
Let's look at this realistically. The thought
I
is
hope we're safe by saying that.
that she wouldn't say anything against the Adelsons in fear for some sort of threat against my point. If they were going to do anything like that, I imagine their thought would be, she is the biggest risk right now because she could testify. At the moment that she does, like if they would do anything, it would be now. I imagine it would be now to take out what would be that risk. Now, I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
I want to make sure, because you're recording this and if there's any use in it, I'm not saying that I believe that that would actually happen, but the notion that if she were to cooperate, that then she would be at risk, I think if she were at risk, it would be the entire time. But it is a foolish argument, and it's foolish for anybody to believe that she's doing anything out of fear from this dental practice.
Do you remember
Thank you, Madam Clerk.